Well, good morning, good evening, good afternoon to you, wherever you are in the world. Thank you for joining me today at Lorena's Labyrinth. Today, of course, we're going to be talking about red garnet. Now, garnet does come in a variety of colours, but I haven't used all of them, shall we say. So my experiences are with the red garnet and what we call an almandine garnet, and these are actually two of my favourite crystals. Realistically, you're going to hear me say many times when I do these videos, and these are one of my favourites, and this is because I love crystals and I actually have used them a lot over the years, as well as, doing the retailing in the past. But anyway, I particularly like to use red garnet when I'm working on a project. Now, before I get into this, of course, I want to acknowledge our returning visitors to the channel, those people that have subscribed. Thank you, thank you, thank you for your support. If you're new to the channel, you may not be aware, I'm Anna. Obviously, this is my channel and I share information here for you to either take advantage of or and incorporate into your own life, or actually just to look at it and go, yeah, not for me. It's up to you, of course. We've all got free choices, free will, as they say. I'm a believer, though, that knowledge is power, and well, it's certainly part of personal power. When we have enough information gathered, then it actually informs our decision making, and we can actually make healthier decisions, is my belief. So this is part of empowering you guys to be able to make decisions for yourself within your own life and what you want to work with and what you don't. Now, obviously, as far as knowledge goes, I also am a believer too. This is one of my beliefs, is that knowledge gained through experience is actually the best form of knowledge, because you actually know it at a core level. You're not taking it on board because you've read a book or because you've listened to a video and heard other people's experiences. The personal experience of knowledge is something that becomes embedded within you. Anyway, if you're new to the channel, I do hope that you'll find the content of value. And just a tip, I do tend to go down what we call the rabbit warren. Sometimes I get distracted with what I'm talking about. I do make notes, but sometimes I tend to go into a bit of a waffle, and so the videos can become quite lengthy. So what I've done to combat this, in respect and recognition of people and their time, is actually to put timestamps in the description. And this way you can jump from spot to spot to wherever you need to go or wherever you want to go. You don't have to sit through the whole video. And the other thing is that at some point in the future, these videos I create might become reference tools for you, and you might want to come back, and rather than have to sit through the whole video, you can just go to the area of the video that interested you. So in some ways, I guess the videos are a bit of a reference tool. Now, without any further ado, let's jump right in and talk about garnet. So the first thing to understand about garnet, at least when we're talking about the red type garnet, the central image here looks a little bit browny, but it's actually very difficult to take a photograph, and I understand this, of a crystal and have it truly show the colours, the natural colours. And this is because of a variety of things, technology basically being at the core of it. But anyway, what we're looking at there is an almandine in the central image, and they tend to be more of a burgundy colour. They're not as bright red as the red garnet. And the other thing is too, my almandine is a bit like the almandine specimen that we've got here on the right hand image. I think that hopefully will show the colour through to you better as the viewer, but it's more of a, definitely I would say, a port wine or even a burgundy type colour, but it's got more of the red hues in it than this particular image in the centre. Sorry, I had to have a cough. So the other thing is too, that when it comes to garnet, and when I say garnet going forward, I'm talking about the almandine and the red garnet, okay, not the other colours, because it does come in a range of colours. The thing with garnet is, if you've got the red garnet, it is actually transparent. It's got a really beautiful lustrous gem quality to it if you've got a good one. When it comes to the almandine is a bit different. It's still, if you hold it up to the light, you could see the light shine through it, but you would not be able to hold almandine up and see through it to the other side, if that makes sense. I'm not sure that you could actually do it with the red one either. My red jewellery pendant that I've got it's not big enough to actually test it out, but it's certainly very pretty. Now, backstory to give you an idea about the colours of garnet as well is that when I got my garnet pendant, that was actually a gift to me from somebody who had received it as a gift herself, and she could not stand it. What she said to me was she knew it had cost a lot of money because it was set actually in gold, but she was like, I can't take it and I can't give it back. She said, can you have it? She said, because I hate wearing it. It makes me feel sick. And by that was psychological, just so that you're aware. It was because for her, when she wore it, it developed a very blood red colour. It looked like very bright red blood. Now, that's a chemical thing, I guess, the way one person wears a crystal and how it shows on them. Whereas when I put it on, it actually went more like the port wine, actually. It was a really beautiful purpley type red. And so from her perspective, it looked much better on me than it did on her. And it felt brilliant from my perspective. It really resonated with me. It was lovely. I absolutely love it, to be honest. And I wore it when I was at university as part of sustaining my focus and concentration to obviously finish my degree. And when it comes to the Almandine beads, well, they have the flaws that you see here. And when I've got my Almandine bracelets, all of the beads are much like what you see in the specimen there. I didn't realise myself until I was doing the research for this that my beaded bracelet is actually probably a whole heap of pristine, untouched Almandine minerals, if you like, samples that would be like this, where they're in their natural state and they've just been put into a bracelet, because they have the natural flaws, the beads on the bracelet. Either way, absolutely lovely. I love it, love it, love it. And I do, before I go on to the next slide, I want to say, look, I can spend a lot of time here talking about what I see in regard to the quality of the crystal. But the best thing I think anybody can actually do for themselves to become informed about a crystal is actually to do a Google. Go to a couple of reputable sites, some geology sites, go to some lapidary sites. Don't go, this would be my recommendation, as much as I'm into metaphysical, do not go to the metaphysical sites until after you've been to the geology sites. Because, well, if you're going to go, actually I shouldn't say that. If you're looking for specific metaphysical properties, go and have a look at the metaphysical properties, but don't lock into what crystal you need to buy or what type until you've actually looked at the geology sites, and then start looking at doing the buying, because then you'll be able to tell if you're paying too much for a crystal, because you'll have a better idea of what the quality is and what type of crystal you're buying. Anyway, enough of that. In the meantime, my internet speed is really not very fast today, so I'm struggling a little with that. So I'm sorry if there's changes in my voice and that kind of thing. I've just had to actually take a break for a few minutes to allow the previous recording to load. But anyway, getting back to the video, what I was going to say next was actually the Zodiac associations and links to red garnet or almandine. And basically we're looking at Capricorn, Aries and Aquarius. And this is because garnet as a crystal, from an astrology perspective, or the Veds, I believe is how you say it, it's associated with the sun. So it's a real motivating, driving force type of crystal. And so therefore people who are Capricorns, who are into the material and they're the workers, they may benefit. I guess this is how they work it all out. They may benefit from using red garnet to actually promote them to pursue their goals, and to help keep their focus, or even to give them the passion to continue whatever task they've set themselves. For the Aries people, clearly they're a fire sign, so they actually are associated with the sun anyway. And I guess that it keeps the passion going for whatever goals they've set themselves. Aquarius, of course, is the air sign. So maybe sometimes the air needs to be heated, it needs to be warm. I associate my interpretations of the elements that way. So being an air sign, adding a fire crystal to their repertoire, if you like, is going to actually help motivate them and inspire them to actually achieve their goals. Because otherwise, the reality with an air sign is they tend to do a lot more thinking and planning as opposed to getting in and getting their hands dirty. And of course, those are generalizations, but that's based on the elements aspects, which translates through to the zodiacs. I hope I'm not going to upset anybody with those comments. Never mind, moving on. So, from a metaphysical perspective, if you haven't picked up by now with the little comments that I've been making, garnet in itself, the red garnet especially, and the almandine, they're both stones of focus and manifestation. If you're trying to achieve something, if you're working towards your dream, then garnet is a really good tool to have in your toolbox. It certainly is energizing. I will say I've actually right now wearing the red garnet because I've been struggling a bit with my own personal energy as far as finishing off the videos and completing my own tasks. What I find is, and we can all turn around and say, it may be psychosomatic, it may not be, but I certainly have found that the moment I put garnet on, I start to feel more energized. I start to think more clearly about what it is that I'm going to do. I'm able to focus more on the goal that I'm trying to achieve. So this is why we say that from an overview perspective, it certainly inspires action, and it does have a host of benefits, both physical and emotional. And we're going to be talking more about the spiritual stuff further on in the video. But besides the fact that I'm saying these are my experiences, if you do your Google and your research, you're going to find that these are common beliefs and perceptions of what garnet can provide to you. And this is why I say personal experience comes down to it as well. So I can turn around and say from my perspective now that I actually support these shall we say, people saying these kind of things are the benefits and attributes. I agree wholeheartedly with this. When it comes to the other ones that I'm going to put up for you, some of them may be my experience, and I'll let you know. But some of them may just be things I've been told by other people, and some of them might be things that I've read somewhere in the process of doing my research where other people say it. So those ones I have a big question mark over, and they would be the ones that I would turn around and say, well, this is what they say, or this is what I've heard, but I'm interested in your perspective. Have you used garnet, for example, and what was your experiences? But anyway, let's keep cracking on, as they say. So, obviously this slide's a little bit blank, and this is because I struggled to actually put the information up there. Not only is there variations in the colours of garnets, which can include the oranges, yellows, greens, purples, browns, blues, blacks, pinks, colourless, whatever. Blue garnets apparently are very rare, and I've never seen them. But there's also a variation in the information about them as being a mineral or a crystal. Like I would like to have on here where you can actually find them and how you can find them. But what I found was that there's such a wide variety of information, because actually garnets are apparently quite prolific, which is probably a good thing because they're used in so many different industrial methods as well. They're not just jewelry items, they're actually used in industry to create other things, manufacture or whatever. So what I thought I'll just do is just say, look, you can find it anywhere apparently, just about. We've got a lot of it in Australia apparently, and this might account for my connection to garnet. And when I was doing my research for this video, I realised that at different times in my life in different areas, I probably found garnet, but I didn't realise what it was. It was actually really quite small, because apparently a lot of the red grainy sands that we have on the coast as well, quite often that's red garnet apparently, but very, very small items. And what I was trying to find for you as far as information goes is, do we have to dig for garnet? Is that what happens, or do we find it on the surface? Do we find it in the dried riverbanks, which is where I'm pretty sure that I found those small garnets back in the day? Anyway, I don't have a clear answer as to how we can find garnet, because quite honestly, I like garnet so much, including this image here, that I would almost want to go and get a pick and shovel and go out looking for it if I knew where to get it. Certainly a crystal like this. And this one here was found in Australia. So what I find very interesting with this, and just to share with you, when I talk about the garnet pendant that I was given, it had the colours that we see here. And so it also, I found, would change colour for me as well. Like sometimes it would be more of this dark colour that we have in the image, and then other times it would go this more purpley pink. Now, I don't know if that's the normal scenario with garnet, but it certainly was with my pendant. But either way, I loved it. Okay, what else can I say about it as a mineral? Just basically, it's not a super fragile stone, as much as it does look a bit fragile when it's got its flaws, when you can see the cracks and that kind of thing. It's not super hard, but it's got a certain level of hardness and durability, shall we say. Oh, the other thing I guess to be said is that when it comes to transparency, of course, I did mention this before, sometimes it can be quite transparent like we see here. This is what I was talking about, that if you held that crystal up to the light, you would be able to see the light going through it because you would see the different colour variations. But you can't hold that crystal up and look through it and see to the other side, really. You know, it's not that transparent. But some of them aren't as transparent as this anyway. So moving on, let's talk a little more about just some buying tips, really. If you look here on this slide, of course, I've got the some of the different types of garnet. These are all garnets. They've got different names. Like I said, you've got your Almandine, which is the one that I love. You can see this one here is not a particularly pretty one. In fact, I'd be very disappointed if I was buying that for a jewellery item. That would probably make, if you're into minerals, if you like having them on your sideboards or whatever, that's what I would be using that type of almandine for, but not for jewellery. But what I felt was really important to acknowledge here is that they now can make it synthetically. So over there you've got a brick of synthetic garnet. You know, that's going to make it difficult, I think, for some people once it's been carved and polished. So the idea of this synthetic garnet is that obviously a jewellery maker or whatever is going to buy it in the slab like that. That's actually rather a large slab. And in fact, it's called a brick. So a bit of background on here is I saw that this brick was being sold for $200 US. Now, if you can imagine the jeweler cutting this down to gem-sized pieces for pendants, you know, how much money is that person going to make out of this synthetic garnet? But what I'd like to think, and I did see that some people are doing the right thing, is if they are selling synthetic garnet jewellery, then they will actually label it as such. I would be pretty upset if I purchased a garnet necklace and it arrived and it was synthetic. So the other thing I noticed too when I was doing my research on this was the recommendation that if you're going to buy from a reputable, ethical retailer, and sometimes they have certificates. Now, the other thing too is that if you don't do that and you want to find out if it's the real genuine McCoy, then you can obviously go and have it tested. Now, it's not just a case of, do we want to be buying something for good value? Why pay for, top dollar for something that's synthetic? There's also a matter of care when it comes to crystals. And my understanding is that any of these synthetic crystals or created crystals, that they actually can be damaged very easily through cleaning if we use the wrong cleaning method on them. And this is taking the metaphysical out. This is just if you happen to buy a necklace because you think it's pretty and you think it's a garnet, and then you put it in your ultrasonic cleaner and you shatter it, you destroy it, And if you've actually paid for the real McCoy, the real McCoy, that's the Australian, the genuine, authentic garnet will not, I don't know about almandine, but red garnet will not disintegrate in your ultrasonic cleaner. So it would be safe to clean it that way, but it wouldn't be safe. I'm open to correction here. If there's anybody out there that's got the expertise, please let us know. But my understanding is if you put synthetic garnet into your ultrasonic cleaner, it's going to actually destroy it. So that's just a couple of tips there. So before I go on to the metaphysical attributes of garnet, I thought I would just put on here a couple of images so that we can actually speculate, because these are variations of what we actually see displayed for people to buy as far as garnets go. Now, surprisingly, this is my gut instinct. Give me yours, please. I actually believe that when we look at the right-hand column, we've got, some people might think it's a bit of a crusty, grainy, not particularly pretty looking crystal. I actually think that's the real McCoy. And from where I sit, I think that's really yummy looking, actually. And I probably would be quite happy to have that type of garnet, but not in that shape. Okay, but perhaps they're just parts of rock that have broken away while the jeweler's been making the finer gems or something like that. I'm not sure. The ones underneath, those two bright red ones underneath, I'm not convinced or 100% sure that they are actually the real McCoy. The one on the left hand, well, in fact, actually, I'd go as far as saying the three on the left are genuine. And I'm very confident, obviously this is a reputable website that I've gone to for the central image. I'm very confident that that is the real McCoy, even if I hadn't gone to that website to get the image, because that is very similar to the crystal beads that I've got. And this is why I say it wasn't until I started doing the Googling to get images for this video that I actually realised that the garnet bracelet that I've got, that all these beads are natural. This is the naturally forming shape. And so when it comes to my bracelet, and I've got two of them, they're actually, all they've done is drill through the center of them and join them together. So I've probably got about 16 of those in each bracelet. I don't know, I haven't counted, it might be less than that. I'm just making an estimate right now. Anyway, let's move on to the attributes. So, when we talk about the spiritual metaphysical attributes of garnet, red garnet, what we're talking about is a crystal that's got the capacity. Of course, I always have to put that disclaimer out there, don't I? So, it is believed to be able to balance the and align chakras within the physical body. It is believed to integrate thought with action, because this is what we're talking about, mind and body. This is about having an idea and then taking action upon that idea. So it's great for manifestation, and it allows and paves the way for this dedicated commitment to task. You know, whatever tasks and goals that we've set, then we actually start actively working towards them. Now, the other thing with red garnet is that people who are experiencing chaos can expect things to become a little more ordered and structured, and this will assist them to tackle any problems that they've been having to address. Now, if you've been struggling to find your purpose, or you're unsure what your purpose is, if you've lost your direction or whatever, then garnet is believed to assist them to find their path again, to renew their purpose, or to find their purpose again, and to make a renewed commitment to taking the steps that are necessary to walk that pathway. So it's about clarity there, bringing a little clarity back into life and life direction. And there becomes a more balanced energy. What would we call it? Energy distribution. You know, so if you've historically been all work and no play, then you're going to find balance. Because the other thing is that with red garnet, because it's this energy balancer, what happens is that you work more productively. So you don't have to work harder, you just are more productive when you're actually at work. Now, I would say I actually support this and believe this, because this is what happened when I was at university doing my studies. Now, the other thing is that from a bridging perspective, there becomes an energetic bridge between the crown and the base chakras, and this is why, or where, and how we refer to the Kundalini. If you know anything about Kundalini, you will know that it's centered right down round about your tailbone, kind of around about where your anus is. I was trying to think of a polite way to say it, but I'll just say it. But it's centered there. And when the Kundalini opens up, it goes up and down the spine to the crown. I mean, as you develop, you can actually extend the Kundalini energy further out. But anyway, when the Kundalini is active, it moves and shifts the obstacles and blockages to whatever your purpose is that you're supposed to be achieving. So when we talk about self-discovery and devotion path, we're also talking about revelations. If you're not aware of what your path is or your life purpose, you can actually find out by using and meditating with Garnet. The one that I actually can't say, hear me stutter, I can't say this, and I can't say that it's not associated with prophetic dreams. And this is because I've always had them. So I don't have any recollection of them being increased through using Garnet, but of course some people say that it does. So once again, I invite you to give your experience as well if you've used Garnet, and if you've noticed an escalation in your prophetic dreams or dream communication with your guides and that kind of thing. That would be very interesting for all of us. So when it comes to the physical healing attributes of Garnet, I've got a few issues here, but I'm going to say what it's supposed to do. Now, clearly, for me, I have no experience of this actually having worked in these ways. I'm at the age and stage where I don't, you know what? Actually, maybe it does work for something. I'll wait and I'll talk to you about that in a moment. It's going to be a bit of a personal story. Never mind. Okay, so I'll just read them out, what it's supposed to be good for. Aches and pains, if people suffer from pains and back problems, it's supposed to be beneficial there, especially when it comes to the back problems because of the alignment perspective. It's supposed to reduce pains in childbirth as well. Obviously, I would have no idea. And when it comes to premature birth, I'm not quite sure how you would use that, whether or not that is, if there's indications of going into early labour, whether or not you would start wearing the Garnet at that point in time, or if you've had a premature delivery, if you would put some red Garnet into the baby's bed. I don't know. Now, the one that obviously I'm very cautious about because this is so political and topical is it's supposed to be if a person's been diagnosed with cancer and got malignant cures, malignant tumours is what I meant, not cures. Goodness gracious me, I'm scattered today. It's probably this internet connection. It's frustrating me. Anyway, moving on. It's supposed to treat the malignant tumours. Now, I'm always very dubious of this, and I say whether it is energy or whether it is crystals, this is my personal belief, do not disengage from mainstream treatments. Always make sure that you are engaged with your professionals. And this is because as much as I'm into healing and the metaphysical, I have lost or known of too many people that have passed away because they have said they're going to refuse mainstream treatment for cancer and they are going to rely on energy or they're going to rely on crystals to actually get well. Now, I'm also going to pop a little disclaimer there as well. When we talk about healing things like cancer, I have seen miracles too, but I just don't like, this is my personal stuff, I don't like seeing young children end up without a mother or a father because their parents have decided to ignore mainstream treatment, and when they end up passing away from a cancer, which if they had actually got treatment done, there was no reason that they would have died. You know, I'm thinking of breast cancer straight off the bat. I know of a couple of women that died of breast cancer, and they were diagnosed at a time when an early intervention would have been able to sustain their life, but they chose not to, and then their kids are left without mums. So other recommendations for using the Garnet, which I'm not so uncomfortable mentioning because this is not life-threatening potentially, and it may or may not work. You know, we've got to be open-minded about these things, is please, if you've got any of these conditions, give it a go and let me know if it worked. So first off, if people have got fertility issues, perhaps problems with conceiving and that kind of thing, it's supposed to promote fertility and address any reproductive issues. You know, it could be libido if a person's got low libido, or even an overactive libido. It's supposed to be able to balance that out. The reason why I said, we'll see, a bit of a revelation here, menopausal symptoms, it's supposed to work well for that. Now, I hadn't thought about this until I was reading it to you and remembering I actually went through menopause. There you go. That's the personal stuff you may not want to know. I went through that pretty well symptom free. All the stuff that everybody said to me, like you get hot flushes, cold flushes, sweats, all of that stuff. I never had any of that. And I never actually knew that I was going through menopause until it was completed. Okay. And when I think about it, putting this into perspective, this is at a time frame when I was wearing red garnet every day. So that's why I'm like, I'll be open-minded about it. I mean, maybe the symptom-free was just part of who I was, but maybe it was related to the fact that I was wearing red garnet every day. Okay, what else does it treat? It's supposed to be beneficial to the spleen and obviously vitality, physical vitality, having the energy to get out there and physically do what you need to do. So we can do that. Vitality is a state of mind. We can have a busy mind where we want to do things. That's revitalization of energy as well. But sometimes with the best of intentions, we can actually fail to follow through because we actually don't have the physical stamina or capacity to be able to do what it is that we want to do. So prime example of this is I've got to get out and do the garden. I will do it. The vitality is that getting up and doing it. So it does enhance the physical. And then let's not forget, I'm not as young as I used to be, and I actually can't sustain working as hard as I used to do either. So theoretically, the garnet will assist me to get done what I need to get done in the garden. The other thing that I find interesting is that it's supposed to promote healing of wounds. So if you've got some wounds that aren't healing, I would recommend maybe start wearing the red garnet or meditating with red garnet. Now, sometimes follow your own guidance with this as well. It could be actually rubbing the red garnet around the wound, not over the wound or on the wound, but around it. And let me know if that worked, if you actually felt or found that the wound healed quicker than what you expected or better than what you expected. That would be some really interesting feedback. I'll try to remain focused here myself with my red garnet and try and stop waffling and just get straight to the point. Okay, so red garnet is not so much about the idea itself, but rather putting the ideas into action. It's the manifestation stage, and this is the attention to detail, the goals, the planning, and even the mapping of the goals. And to complete those goals in a timely way. So perhaps we could even say time management here. So when it comes to the emotional and mind, it's more about the focus, the concentration and attention to detail, I guess. Now, as far as this business of hyperactivity in children, I don't know about that. Okay, I would be very interested in that. I would imagine that's recommended to address hyperactivity in children as part of calming and balancing them. But at the same time, I would say from my experience, I tend to find garnet an energizer. So just rationally speaking, I can't see how garnet would be beneficial to hyperactive children. But if you've got some and you want to give it a try, please do let us know how that goes for you. Thank you. Now, most sites that you visit, they're going to say that garnet is associated with the base and the crown chakras. But I actually feel that because we're talking about it being a stone that activates the Kundalini, which is based right down at the bottom of your spine, the tailbone, and it aligns all of the chakras, then I feel that it's fair to say that actually it works with all of the chakras. But at the same time, I guess it's focused more so on taking care of base survival needs, which that is the red chakra, and it is that integration, like we said, of connection to source, expansion of knowledge, all of that kind of stuff, but knowledge that works in ways that enhances the practical existence. So I can understand why some people say it's just purely base and crown, although clearly it's about all of them, I believe anyway. So we've kind of talked about this already, but suitable use is okay. Jewelry, of course, and there's different ways of wearing jewelry. Right now, I'm not wearing my pendant set in gold. I've gone to those leather. What are they called? Leather cages or whatever that you put your crystal, your tumbled stone in, and then you just wear it that way. So you can wear it as a pendant that way. You can use it as a tumbled stone. You can put it in your pockets or in your bra or whatever. If you've got the specimens, you can use that as an ornament or within the environment to balance the energy within the room and the family or even the workplace. I don't think I'd put it out at work though. Of course, meditating with garnet is always going to be a good thing. Now, what I didn't say about the bracelets is I tended to wear them when I was doing metaphysical work, and that was things such as psychic readings and medium readings and all the rest of it, because I guess in some ways it does have a protection aspect to it as well. And I alternate what bracelets I wear, just in case you were wondering. Sometimes I will wear the Almandine Garnet bracelets. Other times I will wear black obsidian or black tourmaline as just on the wrist. I put them on both of them. So when it comes to the affirmations, I've given you two types, and one of them was actually for the dream recollection one. I thought, well, I'll pick those two out, and obviously you will adapt these to suit your own individual circumstances. But the idea with the dream one is because quite often people say, I had an interesting dream last night, but I can't remember what it was, and I'm sure it was a message, that kind of thing, right? So the idea is that you would do an affirmation. You could perhaps attune your garnet, focus the intention that this is what you want, pop it under your pillow, make that affirmation perhaps every night or whatever, that you will remember your dreams. You'll have conscious recall in the morning when you awake, and then you would keep a pen and pad beside your bed. When you wake up in the morning and those dreams are there fresh in your mind, that's the best time to actually write them down. So that's just one approach. The second approach is actually related to the wound healing, because I looked at that and I thought, that would be really interesting, especially if people want to give it a go. So basically, you would attune your crystal for wound healing, and of course, we've got that video up as well on what you can do to attune your crystals. But then you would perhaps wear the crystal. That would be a time to wear it as opposed to putting it under your bed. You could, under your pillow. I mean, you could put it under your pillow. There's nothing to stop you doing that. But I think if you were trying to fast track healing of wounds, then you would want to be wearing it on your person all the time. But anyway, there's a couple. Don't forget, adapt them to suit your own situation and circumstances and what it is that you're hoping to achieve. Or if you're like me, and when I was at university, I don't think I actually attuned my crystal to help me to focus and concentrate. I think it was just the way it went, and I just wore it for so long. It just worked. I don't know. I can't explain it. So when it comes to any crystal, whether it's garnet or another one, the way I would interpret it as a messenger is obviously going to be contextual upon the person and what I feel, sense, or pick up in the process of giving them their service. So the primary, or the first one that comes to mind that's a bit generic, would be that it's time for them to get active. It's time for them to actually start focusing and concentrating on achieving their goals, and that they will see the results as they put the work in. Success comes through hard work. And if that person is feeling fatigued, because this is quite often the case, they're almost at the finish line and they've got to dig deep to do that final push. This is what I would be saying to them. You're encouraged to take that final push, keep pushing yourself, and draw upon the energizing aspects of garnet to get through to that finish line. Then other times I might be tempted to ask the person if they're feeling overwhelmed and energetically scattered, where they're ungrounded and feeling overwhelmed by tasks and responsibilities, in which case I would say that the message is they need to stop, catch their breath, and then refocus their attention, get some order in their approach to problem solving and completing their tasks, do it one step at a time. Now, if it was the beautiful red or port wine type garnet, I might actually be asking the person if there is an issue around their blood, and have they considered doing a detox, blood purification. It just would depend on the person. As I say, it's contextual. So when it comes to caring for your garnet, whether it's red or any other one, they can actually cope with exposure to water, so that is not a problem. And they can cope with using warm soapy water, not hot soapy water. I wouldn't try that out. But if you've just got some lukewarm soapy water, you could give that a go. Putting this into perspective, with my jewellery pendant, with the one that was in the gold pendant, what I quite often do is, because when you wear it up against your skin in a setting, you end up with that greasy, sounds a bit gross, greasy skin type stuff behind the pendant, especially if you're wearing it for years at a time. You just put it in a coffee cup, warm soapy water. I put my pendant, my chains in there, just leave it sit for a little bit. And then I will pull them out and just use a soft toothbrush on them, then rinse them off with the water and give them a polish with a soft cloth. And this is perfectly fine. Now, I'm told that they can cope with being put in an ultrasonic cleaning machine, but I've got to be honest, I just don't like the idea of them, because I've heard that some crystals can be damaged through them. And this is even the naturally forming ones, not the synthetic ones. Apparently, most synthetic ones will actually fall apart if they're put into those cleaners. I just don't like the idea of taking the risk. So that's me. Sorry, guys, if you're a seller or manufacturer of ultrasonic cleaners, I'm not recommending them. I'm not a gemologist, and I just like to do things the easiest way. And for me, I would rather go the long way and know that there's not going to be any damage done than try and take a shortcut and just wreck everything, So this is the cleaning aspect for me, just a little bit of soapy water, a bit of a rinse. I don't think there's any need to leave it out soaking, but if you were the sort of person that wanted to put it in a bag and run it in a river or whatever that's pinned down, I've got that video up on how to clean your crystals, and that you could do that safely and comfortably with the garnet. Even the almandine is pretty hardy, actually, but if I was the type to use an ultrasonic cleaner, I don't know if the almandine would break, but I just wouldn't even try it in that one either. Okay, so that's the cleaning part. That's just your basic cleanliness stuff. Now, if you want to do an energetic cleanse and a recharge, then I think all of the methods would be appropriate, except perhaps for the one where you leave it out in sunlight. Once again, this is because I live in Australia, and I don't know how the reddish type colours would cope with exposure to our harsh sun. And the other thing is, just a reminder, as I say, because I'm in Australia as well, if you do leave them out overnight under a full moon, just be remembering, be mindful of those morning birds, the dawn choir, and the little sparkle gatherers. We've got a lot of birds out here that love a bit of a sparkle and to take it back to their nest. So yeah, just be a little bit careful with it. So my friends, I would like to thank you for being part of my journey today. I think next week I'm going to put up the video on Bornite on Tuesday, and that's also called Peacock Ore. It's a very beautiful stone. I absolutely love that one as well. But until then, I'm going to say have a wonderful week, blessed day. I will be doing the yarning video. If you want to leave a comment, I will respond on Sunday with the yarning video, okay? In the meantime, take care. Catch you soon. Bye-bye for now.